Okay, just wanted to comment on Lindsey Tichenor and her address of a bill to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion in our K through 12 schools in front of the Interim Joint Committee on Education at our Kentucky General Assembly last week. I've been watching this, and I'm doing a longer form video where I'm going to pick apart the things she says, but just wanted to express my concerns in a shorter video that hopefully people watch, because I don't think anybody's going to watch an hour and a half of me rambling. Maybe you'll watch 10 minutes. God help you if you do. But Lindsey's expressed this idea that diversity, equity, inclusion is a bad thing. It's a racist thing. It's a divisive thing. It is a concept that is not helping our students. Our test scores are not where they need to be, so therefore the blame must be laid at the feet of diversity, equity, inclusion. She has this concept that somehow it is taken over our entire curriculum, and that basically teachers don't know how to teach because all they know now is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And there's just a lot that goes on there, and I'm going to cover a few of them. I can't possibly cover them all because it's a long presentation, and I can't remember them all. I'm old. But there's some things that she brings up. Like one of the things is that it's divisive and pits kids against each other. So I can only say from my experience, and this is anecdotal experience, but my daughter was a student at Jefferson County Public Schools, graduated in 2020. She was there K through 12, and I never once felt like my daughter was excluded because she was a white, straight female. She was indeed in some very diverse classrooms with some very diverse kids from very diverse backgrounds, different countries, different religious beliefs, different, all colors of the rainbow, different sexual persuasions, and she became a better person for it. She didn't feel hatred or disdain for her, other than any normal situation which kids are in where not every kid's going to like every other kid. So this idea that diversity, equity, and inclusion divides kids, my daughter was there for 7 years by my math, 25 probably by Lindsey's math, 2013 to 2020. I didn't see any evidence of that. And I don't think really anybody would say that they saw evidence that their kid was, was attacked because of these initiatives. That doesn't mean that kids weren't educated to think about things that impact other people besides themselves. And I think that's just that's something that we all learned. Those of us who grew up in Christian churches, that's something we learned from Jesus. So as Lindsey virtue signals her own Christianity, you would think that she would try and want to do that. Him in the Catholic Church, whatsoever you do to the least of our people, that you do unto me. And of course, the golden rule, those are all things that we should be thinking about others. We should be practicing kindness and listening and understanding and seeking to understand where others are coming from. So these programs are not divisive. In practice, sometimes some things that people say can be divisive, but by and large, they are there to help. They're help to lift up. They're help to bring the very concepts of diversity, equity, inclusion into our classroom. And it's a broad spectrum of things. It's not any one thing. So to say that's definitely the reason that scores are down is asinine. And I guess I don't get, what's bad about diversity? If you think diversity is bad, then you can't be upset when someone calls you a bigot. If you don't like the fact that there are other people who don't look like you, worship like you, love like you, that's a problem. You don't believe in diversity, then you're probably a bigot. Equity. I have no problem with equity. I don't understand why anyone would. My daughter had lots of advantages. I recognize that, and I'm very grateful that I had those advantages, and that she had those advantages. She had transportation. She had two parents. She had food every day. She had money to explore different things and go to different educational programs and play sports and have a very fulfilling school career that a lot of other kids don't have. Why wouldn't we want other kids to have that experience? I don't understand that. And then inclusion. I mean, Lindsey and I grew up in Oldham County in the 70s and 80s, and it's a lot like a 70s or 80s teen movie. There was a lot of kind of nastiness there, and I'm ashamed to say that sometimes I participate in that nastiness. There's certain words and slurs that you would hear in the classroom, and I would hope you don't hear as much today. Why wouldn't we want our kids to include or be included? Why is that a bad thing? I just don't understand. Another thing that Lindsey brought up is this concept of these programs are educating our educators. They're being told all these different book titles that are scary. And there's one, I think it's Multiplication is for White People. Can you believe they're being told to read this book, Multiplication is for White People? Well, when you read the blurb about the book is about how to, one, the fact that black and white students are not born with different abilities in math. The book's whole focus was, how do we help kids understand they are able to achieve, do better in mathematics? It's kind of an ironic title. It's not a racist title by any means. There's some other things like How to Be an Anti-Racist. That was a book that she was upset about. Which I guess if you're upset about the question how to be an anti-racist, that means you really don't want to have your racism challenged, which I don't get. I truly don't, but maybe Lindsey wants to be a racist, and that's not fine, but I guess that's her prerogative. But is that really what we want in our schools? Do we want our kids to be racist? This idea that somehow our teachers are going to read these books, which I don't know that Lindsey reads. I don't think she does. She reads what's handed to her, but I don't think she researches or reads or has any sort of desire to educate herself. But this idea that teachers who read these things are being indoctrinated rather than reading and gleaning from that things that can help them in their educational process. She's not giving any credit to teachers there. These are smart people. They read these things because they want to learn and they want to grow and they want to help the children they serve. So to blame these books and say they're horrible, that's on Lindsey. Lindsey's got a real problem if she's got problems with those books. And then something else that she had mentioned was the meetings they had for JCPS, the JCPS task force. And she said, proof that our kids are being indoctrinated. We had kids from Male and Central come up to us and tell us we were white supremacists and racists, and these hours of meetings where they told us this. Well, Lindsey says this, but what she doesn't say is that there is no video evidence that I can find of any of these two task force meetings that they had. The ones that they had that were not in Louisville, there is video for those, but there's nothing that I can find other than some news coverage of those meetings in Louisville. So the only thing I have to go on is the notes from those meetings. And I went back and looked at those notes, and I think, these hours of people calling them hours of students calling them racists and white supremacists. There were four students, and I think one of them may have been an alumni from what I remember reading in the notes. 4 students spoke at Male High School. That meeting lasted from 5:33 to 6:33. That's an hour's time. And there were many other speakers plus the task force. So if there were hours of comments, it may have felt like hours to her to have one criticism hurled her way, but it was not hours of students testifying and saying mean things against them. Central High School, where the other meeting was, 3 students spoke out there. Again, this is their meeting minutes. If there's video evidence that says differently, then please provide it, Lindsey, or anybody. I'll be more than happy to look at it. I know Lindsey's not going to provide it because she knows that might throw off her argument here. But that meeting was held from 5:30 to 6:55. So we've got a total of, less than 2.5 hours of meetings. 7 kids. That must have been hell for them. The fact that you have kids who are willing to take the risk to come and speak, defend their education, defend their schools, defend their school system, to me should speak that maybe we're doing something right. We've got students who are active. If they had been people from Turning Point USA, Lindsey'd have been all over it, and she'd have been really excited that they got up and look at how good they are and what great students they are. But because they were students of color, I guess Lindsey felt a little uncomfortable to be criticized. And I don't really have any evidence that she was criticized. The only thing I could find was one video where a student expressed concern about what was happening and how that would negatively impact them. There was no comment about racism in what little I could find. I just really, I look at everything that Lindsey said in this meeting, and we're still working on that video. It's a long video, and I'm making a lot of comments, and I'm screwing up a lot of comments, so I'm having to do a lot of work. But it's depressing to me to see someone who came out of an excellent school system like Oldham County Schools come out of that and not know how to do research, not know how to make a coherent argument, not know how to back up her argument with facts, not know how to back up her argument with data, not understand that correlation does not equal causation, a basic scientific concept that I learned in 7th grade. Keith Willamy, great guy, great teacher, loved to have him, learned a lot, stuck with me. I'm 54 years old now. You do the math because I can't. So it's just depressing. It is really depressing. And there are several people on that panel who are just like Lindsey, who are not educators, who do not have really educational experience, either at the college level in being college students. Not that that's necessarily important, but when you're deriding, when you're saying that it's a bad thing that our kids aren't college ready, I think it's worth asking the question, well, why didn't you go to college? Because she does bring up college readiness in this presentation. There's a lot of our legislators who did not graduate college, who didn't go to college. And then we've got some like Jennifer Decker, who speaks, and she actually championed another anti-diversity, equity, inclusion bill. She's a lawyer, and she's dumb as a stump. She presented her DEI bill last year, or this year, I'm sorry, I'm losing my track of time, but this last session. And she couldn't answer basic questions about her bill, nor did she seem to have a basic understanding of the law that your average 6th grade civics student would have about what a Supreme Court decision does and doesn't do. She didn't understand the Supreme Court decision about diversity, equity, and inclusion. She couldn't answer questions about the law. And she got taken to school by 2 lawyers who just happened to be black. So I just, we should not, in the education committee, be embracing stupidity. We should not be embracing ignorance. We should not be embracing exclusion, which is what diversity, equity, and inclusion seeks to avoid. She infuriates me. I find her a very sad and tragic individual. I think she loves the spotlight. She loves the attention. And she loves championing this stuff. And honestly, it may make her a popular legislator. It doesn't make her a very good one, because while she's paying attention to these bills that distract and cause division, her colleagues are doing things like bringing in tax breaks for data centers that caught her off guard, and that she claimed, and I believe this is the case. She's like, "Oh, I didn't know anything about this bill." Well, yeah, you probably didn't, because you probably didn't read it, didn't care, and weren't clued in by your fellow legislators who screwed you over. So I can believe that. But she's the useful idiot for her colleagues like Jason Nemes and David Osborne to do other things that don't have to do with all these wedge issues that still hurt the Commonwealth and hurt the people there. But they're able to do that undercover because we've got all these distractions that take up all the time and attention from the community and from our legislators, and then all the double dealing that creates tax breaks for data centers and these these other things that wind up hurting Kentuckians. Those are all done behind closed doors. This is the sideshow, and Lindsey's a participant in it, a gleeful, willing participant in the sideshow, and a sideshow that pushes hate. And I find all that unfortunate. So thank you for listening. Look forward to my video. At the rate I'm going, it'll probably be out in 2037, but I'm still working on it. So thank you for listening.